Hey guys, welcome back to Play on Wheels. In today's video, we slap a turbocharger on a Flathead Ford. If you can see right here, on the front of the passenger manifold, there's a block-off plate. And if you haven't watched my other videos on this car where we actually go through and talk about how this is a Ford ordered with the Mercury, you should check it out. But anyway, the point is, this car has dual exhaust, so the driver manifold exits in the rear as well as the passenger, but the passenger has the block plate because all the passenger manifolds of the day had a provision for the crossover in the front, which this car did not have. So long story short, we are actually going to take the hot side of our turbo right off of that blocked off flange connection and bring it up and around and U-bend and go into our exhaust housing somewhere right around in this area. And we're gonna see how well that small frame turbo sitting over there fits in this area. All right guys, I'm not sure if I got you sitting exactly where I want you, but I am gonna kind of go ahead and get a glimpse of how this turbocharger is gonna look in this area. We might be running no intercooler, which is not ideal because what I'm noticing is we're not really gonna have anywhere to pipe it. See, if we go with non-intercooled, which again is not my favorite idea, but if we can get the turbo back here and go non-intercooled, then it'll be a quite the short distance from our turbo outlet to our intake up there. At least just to get the car running and see how it's going to do with the turbo and the EFI that we have planned for this thing. I'm starting to lay out our hot side for our turbo kit here. And this is the block plate that was on the front of the passenger manifold. And so my idea is to go from this and transition from the small diameter up to the 2.5 inch, something like that. And then we'll weld a V-band on here. I don't know if y'all can see that, but I'm probably gonna actually cut this down so that this is not so long. But the thing is, we have to get that welded to the plate and then also leave enough room to get our nuts on to the studs that are on the passenger manifold. And then once we do that, we'll have V-band. We'll come in here and we'll trim this back wherever we need it, and we'll have the other side of our V-band right here. That'll get this transition mounted to our passenger manifold. And then up here, this is gonna come around, get another V-band, kind of have this mocked up to our elbow, so we'll get this rotational degree of freedom here, and then we'll get this down here with this V-band to be able to rotate this whole piece. And then of course our turbo will mount to our T3 flange here, and everything should kind of fall into position that way. So that's the plan. I'm gonna keep working on this and I'll show you guys what we come up with. We got our little transition piece here just stuck together, so what I did was just trim down this adapter and make it fit nice inside the V-band. I say nice, I mean it's a decent enough fit. And then what we're gonna do is just run a weld all the way around, and then we'll take our flange. I already cut one out, but it's over cooling off because it got super hot when I cut it. But the idea is gonna be to weld this onto our new flange, and then we'll still have enough room for our fasteners on each side, and we'll have a little adapter piece that goes from our stock manifold to 2.5 inch V-band. So coming along. We got our little V-band adapter welded up down there, and you can see the clearance is really tight with the passenger side water pump, and we can't install our V-band after our adapter is bolted up. We're going to have to finish working on our piping over here and put this V-band on here, and then go ahead and install that, and then install our flange. And we'll still be able to loosen the V-band and, you know, rotate this back and forth, but everything's just gonna have to go ahead and be installed on the car, which we're only doing this now because we have the engine still in the car. We are gonna still go ahead and pull this out, but we're just gonna get the hot side mocked up here, and then we'll be taking the engine out and moving on with some of that work. And then we'll come back when we get done, put the engine back in, and do the cold side and basically the rest of the work. So we'll get finished up on this. I'm gonna go ahead and pick the spot, get this V-band welded on to where it sets our turbo in the right location. Okay, so we got the next part of the hot side mocked up here. I did go ahead and tack this. You're probably wondering why this is such a weird angle. Well, my own mistake, but as I was building this part, I didn't really realize that the flange down there on the manifold was so far off level. So I actually had to kind of make this piece to fit in there like that, and that flange is not straight. But what I did was cut it, and I know it's probably hard to see from here, but I actually did put a level on this, and my section, this section right here of this pipe is actually level when the V-bands are lined up. So I'll get this mocked up in there, throw another tack or two on this, and we'll show you guys how it's going to fit in the car. Okay, we've got our piece mocked up in here. Oh, I just knocked the V-band off. Just have this sitting on here. Okay, so we've got our elbow that's going to mount like this. But basically what we're trying to do now is eyeball this and figure out where we want our turbo to sit in the engine bay. So if I go ahead and grab the turbo. Okay, so I know that's probably not the best view, but essentially what we're trying to do is place our turbo, and I'm thinking I'm gonna be getting rid of this distributor, so I'm kind of ignoring it, but I would love to keep the turbo back here. I just don't know if I can make a downpipe with a sharp enough elbow to get back there, but that might actually not be too bad if we just put it right here. Okay, y'all, we have our turbo located, and it is honestly over the top. This thing looks so out of place in this engine bay. But I'm actually really impressed with how well this start of the hot side turned out. I'll show you guys here real quick. Coming out of the manifold, we have that first V-band, so we have a degree of rotation there. And then what we ended up doing is actually taking the slip joint that we cut off from down there off of the U-bend and added it here and put a V-band on the end. This isn't finish welded yet, but we got that V-band on the end here. So we have a rotational degree of freedom here, one here with the turbo, and one down here as well at the manifold connection. And once we get all this mocked up, we're gonna end up heat wrapping that exhaust pipe there. We don't want that to just heat soak the engine bay immediately. But anyway, this is the first mock-up of this turbo on this 1950 Ford, and at this point, now that I have it to here and I know I have adjustability to locate the turbo wherever it needs to be, we're going to go ahead and disassemble this and actually proceed on pulling out the engine from this car. That way we can do the things we need to do. We got a ton of suspension work to do on this thing, but we're going to jump into that stuff here in the next video, and I hope you guys stick around to watch, because this is a really fun project and I'm super excited to see how well this old 1950 Ford takes a a turbo with same light boost, maybe up to 5 psi. So comment below if you think this engine is going to explode the first time we drive it out, or do you think it's going to make more power? Again, keep in mind we are probably going to go EFI on this car as well, so leave a comment below, tell me what you think. Okay, I think we are almost to the point of pulling this engine out. I've got the engine hoist already hooked up to our lift plate here. 2 bolts left on the transmission to bell housing or adapter, whatever you want to call it. We've got our front engine mounts out. I think we crawl under this car, unbolt those last 2 engine mount bolts, and then we will be able to wiggle this engine up out of the car, hopefully to find everything in good shape. So let's get this thing pulled out. All right, let's see what we can destroy here. No, I'm just kidding. But on a serious note, at least I think I am ready to start lifting the engine up out of the engine bay. Let's put a little tension on it here. All right, y'all, I think we're getting somewhere. All right, guys, we've got the engine out of the car for the first time since I've owned the car, of course. And we're just looking it over, seeing if we see any kind of obvious problems, you know, leaks or anything like that. One of the first things I am noticing is we've got a little bit of oil on the bottom bolt holes of the bell housing. And what that tells me is there's a pretty good chance that our old rope seal in there, our main seal, is no longer holding up. Everything's looking pretty good. Of course, this is all things we've kind of seen before, but I mean, really, this thing is not that dirty, which kind of aligns with our suspicion. Long story short, we believe this engine was either remanufactured, rebuilt, or replaced in 1970 when the car had just under 50,000 miles, and it's showing about 55,000 now. So by all accounts, this engine should only have about 5,000 miles on it. And this is really evidenced by the first look that we're having inside here. Look at that old spark plug laying there. Very cool. But if we look here at the frame, we can really see all the buildup from just years and years and years of maintenance being done on this car. See all the buildup there on the control arms, and especially over here on the steering box. Hopefully y'all can see that decent. There's our transmission, of course, tucked in there. Quite nice having this engine out of the way for us. We're gonna be able to really clean on this thing, get this frame looking good. That way, when we drop our engine back in, and you know, we want to have a clean surface to kind of work from when we do maintenance, our own oil changes, our own service, that kind of thing. But very cool. Glad to see we got the engine out without any problems. All right, y'all, so we got the engine back on the hoist here. We're gonna bolt on our bell housing real quick, and then we'll grab some parts and we'll start in on building the remaining part of the hot side for our turbo kit. So let's get to it. Okay, we got our engine back on our engine crane, got our bell housing mocked up, and what we're about to do is dive in on building the rest of our hot side of our turbo kit. We've got to run piping from the rear of this rear of the driver manifold down around the bottom of our bell housing and here to the rear of the passenger manifold. So that'll complete our turbo kit. Let's get started. All right, we'll start off, make a couple of templates for our flanges. One here, and we'll go on from there. All right, y'all, I wanted to jump on here real quick. I'm making my template for my 2 exhaust flanges. I wanted to show you guys this. I took an old, this is just a socket I literally got for free in a bucket of other sockets, and I ground down the edge of it to make it kind of sharp here. So I don't know if you guys can really see that on camera, but I ground this edge down to make it sharp, and I use that here on my workbench. So I use this tool to basically put where my bolt holes are going to go, and then take a hammer, one hit, and it cuts out a nice circle and gives you enough tolerance on a 3/8 bolt so that you can get your bolts in there. So pull this little piece out. It's not perfect, but it does the job. You may give it 2 whacks. And there we go, a couple of good holes. I really boogered this one up on camera, but sorry about that, guys. You can see it's basically the same thing. And just like that, we have a template for our flange for our passenger side exhaust manifold. As y'all can see, fits like a glove. All right, what we'll do now is make the same thing for the driver's side, get those traced out on some steel, cut them out, and we'll be ready to weld up some tubing. Oh, the lighting is terrible. Okay, guys, we've been hard at work here building the rest of the hot side for our turbo kit. Got those flanges made up there. They're crude and rude, but they'll do the job. And we made this to where it comes around and kind of hugs the bottom of the bell housing and up here and kind of around the starter. So hopefully it's out of the way of everything inside the car. I think it will be. And what I'm going to do here is probably end up doing some kind of a slip joint or a flexible coupler or something there just to make this 2 pieces but easy to install. Okay, we got our passenger side piece welded up here. Still a little hot, but as y'all can see, ow, yeah, still hot for sure. Y'all can see I got that piece welded on there. We're gonna make that end our slip joint over into the driver's side here, just below the bell housing. And we got to pull this driver's side off, get it welded up. All right, driver's side is fully welded. Let's hope our flange didn't warp too bad. It doesn't look too bad. We might have to knock her a little straight, but it's not too bad. I think it'll work just fine. All right, guys, here's our hot side all mocked up on our Flathead engine. As you can see, we had to snake around the front up into the turbo. We've got our rear pipe that goes down below our bell housing out of the way, up. Misses our clutch linkage here, so we have our clutch rod that'll go like this and our spring will go forward, so we're missing that. So far, we've accomplished a lot in this video. I have a couple more things to do on this engine to get it ready to drop back in the car. We're going to replace that front main seal, tidy up a couple small things. But in the next video, we start working on our electronic fuel injection. We have a transmission swap to work on, and a ton more parts to go on our 1950 Ford to make this thing reliable, safe, and also fun to drive. So if you like this video, like, subscribe, think about checking out some of the other videos on the channel, and stick around for future videos because we have a lot more to do on this car to get it ready for the road. Have a good one. Thank you for watching Play on Wheels.